So it sounds pretty obvious, but consider the rough cut like a rough draft on a text or essay. It's essentially a somewhat sloppily put together version of what you want your video to look like in the end. During this stage though, we focus more on getting things done, put in, and put together than we do on perfecting it and making it look pretty as we go. To get started, I'm going to drag and drop one of my clips into the timeline. This is going to create a sequence, which is essentially a location that stores all of my clips and edits. The sequence eventually becomes the end video, so you want to know what that is and how to work with it. But essentially, it's called a sequence because we store a sequence of videos and edits. We can also find the sequence though over here in the project panel, which is important because I need to click on it onto the title and rename it to what we called our project. So compositional video. This helps me see over in this tab that we are working on the compositional video. Now that I have my sequence made, I'm going to actually delete all of my footage that I put into there. Instead, I'm going to start bringing shots into my timeline in the order I want them. For videos like these, it's helpful to bring in your audio first. See, your audio gives you kind of a roadmap to work with. It helps you know where to position your videos, especially if you've already done some sort of planning, like our storyboard. For example, during my storyboard, I decided that I wanted to bring in a shot of a couple in the sunset who kind of come together, and I wanted that to go with the very first line of the audio. So if I listen back to the audio,
I think sometimes we forget how beautiful life still is.
It reminds me of what I wanted before, so I'm going to reference that in my storyboard, and that'll bring that into timeline by dragging and dropping it. And then, because I only wanted to match that one particular line, I'm going to go where that line finished, which is right around here, and I'm going to drag the end of the video, clicking, dragging, and bring it in up to that point. And now I have just that amount of video for that spot. Alternatively, a better way of inserting this clip would be to use in and out points on my source monitor. If I double click on my video in the project panel, it'll open up in a preview we used before. I'll go to where I want the video to start, which for me is the very beginning, and I'll hit I for in point. And then I'll go to where I want the video to end, and I'll hit O on the keyboard for out point. At this point, I can insert the clip into the video by dragging and dropping the picture of the video itself. You can also do this by instead using these two buttons right below the picture. One of them is going to drag the video only, and the other one will drag the audio only. Now, this particular clip doesn't have any audio, so let me give you an example. For this clip, where it does have some audio and video, which will be most of the things you work with in this class, it can be useful for me to use this video only icon, because I don't want any of the audio that comes with it. If I did, it had the possibility of accidentally deleting my audio by dragging it into the wrong spot. Let's say I had this audio here, and drag this in, I've accidentally deleted some of my audio, and it's hard to get that back. But maybe I just don't want that audio at all because it's useless. So I will drag the video only, and that makes it a lot easier to work with. This whole method though of using in and out points in the source monitor is honestly a lot cleaner and safer of a method for editing, but I'll just give you the advice that there is a time and a place for you to use each of the methods, particularly based on what kind of video you're editing and how far in the process you are. So use whatever method works for you. Once our clip is in the timeline though, we can by dragging the edges, just like I showed you before, to make it longer or shorter based on how long it is. Or we could split the video by going over to the tool panel, clicking on the razor tool, or we could click C on the keyboard, and I'm going to cut it where I want it to finish. I then go back to my selection tool, or I hit V, and I'm going to click on the video I don't want, hit delete, and it's gone. Now what's really nice about this is if I use the cutting tool, I can actually use different parts of the video for different things. So I could use this later on, or I could use them not at all. Either way. So that's another way of going about it. One last tip, if you need to make it easier on yourself, you can actually zoom in and out of the timeline by pressing plus on the keyboard and minus for zoom in, zoom out. Or I can drag this little icon on the bottom and make it zoom out, zoom in, or even drag this around to see different parts of the timeline. I personally like using my keyboard, so I press plus and minus in order to navigate. All right, now that we know how to bring everything into the timeline, let's go ahead and put all the things in and complete our rough cut. All right, I think that I'm done with my rough cut. But once it's looking good and ready to be tied up, we're gonna go to the next video for tightening the sequence. Before we go on, there's a few common questions I typically get regarding some of the things I just showed you. As such, here's a couple of extra comments you should check out as you go throughout your editing process. One other fact about sequences is that you can make them the wrong size. Whatever you throw into a sequence first is going to be what the sequence is based on. So let's say that the first thing I brought into the sequence was a vertical photo or video. So that would actually make the entire sequence and project to be vertical. I'll show you an example here as I bring in a photo as the first thing I bring into a project. You can see that the sequence is actually vertical as well, and it's based on the size of the photo. Now, problem with this is that when I try to bring in something else, such as a horizontal video, it doesn't fit into the project. So I'll click and I can move it around, and you can see that it just doesn't fit. And when I try to save this video and render it in the future, it'll still be vertical, which is not what I want. So, all I mean to say is that you need to be very careful about what thing you bring into the project first. If you want your project to be vertical, bring in something vertical. If you want it to be horizontal, bring in something horizontal. Either way, the computer is going to match your entire project to the first thing you bring into it. So just be sure you know what you're doing. Similarly, sometimes even when you do it right the first time, you're gonna have some clips that just aren't the same size as others. So let's say I bring in this video. You're going to see that it is going to be smaller than the rest of the project. And I really don't want that. I can fix it though very simply. I simply right click on it, and then I scroll down to the bottom where it says scale to frame size. Then when I hit that, it's going to automatically expand it to reach the size of the video. This can also be the case if you have something that is larger than the rest of the videos. If it doesn't fit, you simply right click, scroll down and say scale to frame size, and you have it fixed. As you open more and more projects, you may have some sequences that stay open. This is fine, as you can actually work on more than one sequence at a time. You simply click on the sequence that you want to open up, and it'll go straight to it. This is actually really convenient for working on bigger projects, and though you don't have to know how to use this yet, it is an option for you to do. However, if you do want to bring these down, you simply click on the X right next to the sequence, and you'll close it. Even up until the point that you could close all of them. All right, very last FAQ. When I'm bringing something in from my source monitor into the project, it's going to typically bring it in just fine. And in fact, it should bring in the video and the audio. However, there is one option here on the side where it says V1 and A1 on the very left. If either one of these is toggled off, you're not going to bring in that associated thing. So for example, if I turn off the video one and turn on just A1, which is for audio, and I bring this in, it's impossible for me to bring in any video. And you'll be like, why can't I bring in video? It's because you have to turn this V1 on. And it's pretty simple. But you could turn A1 off, and that allows you to bring in just video every single time without having to use this video icon. Just know that in case it's not working for you.